Will this have mass amount of benefit towards hypertrophy, i.e. like muscle gain? Probably not. Yeah, you'll probably get a pump because you're essentially contracting the muscle, but I don't think it's going to be a very effective movement to do if you're looking to obviously work the glutes. We're back in for another video, and we're bringing back the reacting to workout series, which is what I like to think a nice combination between informative content and dry humour that nobody will laugh at except for me. Tomorrow I get a haircut, which means this is the last time you're going to see this dead lid. Even though I'm still going to wear hats, this isn't going to be a thing, you know? Thank you so much for the comments regarding who your favourite Gymshark athlete was in the last video. Now I've got one more question for you. Who is your least favourite Gymshark athlete? I can't tell you why, just know that you're probably going to find out in the next couple of weeks. Really appreciate if you let me know in the comment section below. Bless, let's crack on with the video. So these were sent to me on Instagram primarily, so thank you for doing so if you did send me anything. And if you do want to send me anything for me to look at in the future, please drop me a DM. But to kick it off, we've got Monique Collier. I'm awful at names, I butcher them all. I butcher my own name and I've had it for 27 years, so please forgive me, I'm trying. Xerxes squats, great movement. Probably not one of my preferred movements, mainly because you spend more time worrying about the bar placement and how uncomfortable it is in the arms than actually focusing on the legs themselves. But doing multi-joint resistance-based movement like a Xerxes squat or squat variation is probably not something I would pair with a Bosu ball. To be honest with you, when I do stand on Bosu balls, they often pop, and then I get in trouble at the gym for exceeding the weight limit, which is quite unfortunate. To me, it looks like a recipe for injury, especially for most people. Maybe if you're an athlete and you would benefit from a movement like this or incorporating Bosu balls into your workouts, then yeah, fine. But for the general gym goer, I'm gonna say it's not Ting. Rolling your ankles really hurts. I don't want to roll my ankles doing this. Gabby Dawn Allen is now up for review. Someone I've never actually heard of, but someone I'm gonna find out about pretty quickly. Okay, well, I'm gonna be honest with you. I can't do a handstand at the best of times, nor can I do a roly-poly. So a movement like this seems like a recipe of disaster for myself personally, because I will probably end up yeeting myself over the top, onto the floor, maybe cause some seismic activity, and it's not going to be a good time. Although it may be quite fun, I'm not sure it's massively effective, and I feel like the potential risk of basically failing the movement through technique issues is probably quite high, and probably not worth in that sense. This though, good movement. Actually used to be a drill I used to run at MMA when I was doing MMA back in the day. And yeah, it's a good movement. It's good rotational movement. Love bringing the obliques, often neglected, so I'm a fan of this. So Lilly Sabri is someone that's actually been heavily requested in the comment section below, and is someone I am due to look at in the next few weeks. As far as I'm aware, from what she's saying here, she has previously ruptured her ACL and MCL, which is a nasty injury. See, the thing I actually like about this, it's a bit more dynamic and a bit more functional. Obviously, we've got the added resistance band pulling you back and you're down jumping against it. Another great movement, big fan of this. And the thing I do really like about this is it's unilateral work. A lot of these workouts that you see from influencers tend to neglect unilateral work, and by that I mean essentially performing one side at a time, so one limb at a time. So incorporating unilateral work here is fantastic. It's a great means of avoiding or potentially correcting imbalances. More unilateral work, and this time chuck in some hamstring work as well. Another muscle group that's often neglected, especially when looking at home workouts, because it's slightly harder to target. Lilly, I've got high expectations for you. You're up there. This is looking good. Before we carry on with the video, I've got to say a few things quickly. If you like the video and want to see more videos like this, drop 150 likes down below, and I shall do it. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel, which is the red button. I'm not going to point to it, but it's somewhere down here. It takes a few seconds. If you really want to put a smile on my face, click the bell next to it, which means you'll be notified when I upload every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. BST. It would mean a massive amount to me, and I'm so appreciative of all the support I've received recently and for the years I've been on YouTube, so thank you very much. And last thing before we carry on with the rest of the video, comment question of the week. If you have a question you want me to answer at the end of the next video, drop it down below for comment question of the week, and I shall do so. Anyway, I won't keep you any longer. Let's get back to the workouts. Demi Bagby. Okay, I'm going to be honest. I've said previously, you know, I can't do handstands. It's embarrassing. I'm not going to try. I would try, but I'm not going through the floor today. It's probably not worth it. But the fact that she can do this all underwater has bloody bamboozled me, to be honest. A great selection of exercises. I won't take that away from her. If you were to perform this, which I probably wouldn't recommend, be sure to have a nose clip on, because the last thing you want is water go up your nose, because it makes you feel a bit funny, you know, a little bit funny in the head. If you aren't going to do movements like this underwater, I'd probably stick to a very shallow paddling pool, because that way, personally for me, I wouldn't be spending the entire time floating to the top and trying to bring myself back down. Caroline Girvan. Probably butchered that name as I have with all the other names, but we're going to go with it. Bear with me. Probably the most requested person for me to look at in the comment section, and again is someone I'm due to look at probably in the next 3 weeks or so. Based on what I'm seeing here, she is in phenomenal shape. I mean, like, that unreal shape. The fact that bicep curls are in there immediately chucks you at the top, because who doesn't love to get a sick bicep pump? I'm joking, they're actually not that important, to be honest. Single arm rows, unilateral work, great stuff, and back work, again, often neglected in home workouts. Again, another unilateral movement, and it's a rear delt movement, which is something I do love to see, especially when it comes to postural correction and injury prevention. So a lot of times, like when you do a lot of like movements like pressing and stuff, it's very anterior heavy, so that often, especially in men, you often see after many sets of the bench press, men walk around with shoulders like this, you know exactly what I mean, when they're hunching forward like this. So that could be due to neglected rear delts, neglected upper back muscles, etc. So doing movements such as rear delt flies and rows and whatnot does help bring those shoulders back a bit, and this applies to all genders. Don't neglect your back, especially don't neglect your upper back. So work on your posterior chain. It's very important. Another thing I like about what I've seen with Caroline is that she focuses on quite a controlled tempo. She's going to be really good for hypertrophy, because time under tension is a principle of growth that is so commonly overlooked. Yeah, sure, it's not fast-paced and it's not like a HIIT workout, but when it comes to actual hypertrophy and muscle growth, making sure you are under tension for a significant period of time is going to be really great. Caroline, it's looking good spice here. It's looking good sauce. So, Daisy Keech. If you're watching this video, many of you may have found my channel from the Daisy Keech video I did a few weeks ago. We shall revisit her very briefly just for this one segment. See, I'm going to approach this from two different angles. I understand she's saying do at the end of your leg day for a major pump, etc, etc. Will this have mass amount of benefit towards hypertrophy, i.e. like muscle gain? Probably not. Yeah, you'll probably get a pump because you're essentially contracting muscle, but I don't think it's going to be a very effective movement to do if you're looking to obviously work the glutes. Again, it will do something, but there are better alternatives out there. Like I said, I prefer hip thrust variations and multi-joint movement variations like squats, etc. But what I will say is this: if you can find a way of elevating yourself higher, you can then swing your legs under. You can essentially perform a reverse hyperextension, which is technically a machine, but also a movement, designed by Louis Simmons from Westside Barbell many years ago. And the theory behind it is this: so when we do squat variations and deadlift variations, it's very compression intensive, i.e. there's a lot of spinal compression. So doing movements such as the reverse hyperextension is great for decompression, and it's also great for working the posterior chain. So in that sense, this is not a bad suggestion from Daisy, provided it was modified slightly. Oh, okay, so this is an interesting one. Someone actually DM'd me about this, which is blood flow restriction training or occlusion training. You essentially tie a band, like a rubber band or something, around a separation point of muscles, i.e. on your arms you would tie it potentially below the shoulders, and I guess between the shoulders and the tricep biceps. So like if you could see my arm, I wouldn't wear a hoodie, you know what I mean, like here, where your t-shirt cuts off. And obviously for the legs, she's tying it up below the glutes. So the idea was you would restrict blood flow and you'd essentially train before then releasing the band and allowing blood to flow into the area again. And the initial concept was it would result in more nutrients getting pushed into the muscle. One side will say yes, it's effective. Another side will say no, it's probably not effective. So what I will say is this: time and a place. GainsByBrains, someone else who's actually been mentioned a few times in the comment section below, and someone else I shall be looking at in the near future. And today she's going to take us through a leg workout. Well, I'm going to watch her take us through a leg workout. Sumo squats. Again, I don't really like the terminology of like sumo squats. The 1.5 pulse variation, I'd probably stick more to just overloading with a full range of motion regular squat. Although 1.5 rep based movements do have a purpose, they're probably something I'd incorporate more into like a powerlifting based program or a strength based program, especially when correcting technical issues. Big fan of deadlifts, although I don't like supersetting deadlifts. I love the hip thrust, great movement for glute development, so I'm obviously a big fan of that. Look at the size of this boy. Look at the size of this boy. Look at the size of your breath. It's still horrendous. It never gets better. We need to talk about your teeth, because something is smelly in you. But here's the thing. Sir. Alright, so we're moving away from Instagram now, and we're going to TikTok, or as I like to call it, TikTok. We're going to be looking at Blogilates, thigh sculpting routine. Again, not a big fan of the term sculpting. These are all movements that you will feel in your thighs, because you're essentially lifting the legs off the ground and holding them off the ground for a prolonged period of time. Therefore, they'll be under tension for a prolonged period of time. but again, doesn't mean it's massively effective. Especially in movements like this, there's only so far you can take your body, and that's going to be hard to progressively overload and add resistance to. You will feel it, it will burn. Is it going to help the growth of your thighs or change the shape of them or define them? Probably not. Just because you're hurting it doesn't mean you're working it. I'm going to say, although I appreciate what she's doing, which is trying to get more people active and helping people who maybe don't have any equipment, I do think that sticking to the basics of like split squat variations, walking lunge variations, squats, glute bridges, things you can do with body weight at home without any equipment will probably be better for you. Strong arms with light weights. Elevated bicep curls, crucifix curls, whatever you want to call them. Great movement, provided you have a cable machine. So when you have a dumbbell and you're holding your arm out like so and doing a bicep curl, there'll be tension from the full stretch being here to about 90 degrees being here, basically because gravity is pulling the dumbbell down to the floor in a manner that means the biceps are having to work to go against gravity. Once you get past this point, gravity is again going to be pulling the dumbbells down to the floor in a manner that means the biceps aren't going to have to work, so I could do nothing and it would fall. Therefore, the range of motion where the muscles are actually under tension is quite limited, whereas if you had a cable machine, the tension is a lot more consistent throughout the entire movement, so you can have tension from the stretch to the peak contraction. If you do have access to a cable machine and you're doing these at gym, probably worth doing it with a cable machine. Tricep kickbacks, great movement, big fan. Overhead tricep extension, another great movement, big fan of this. T-arms, similar thing to the biceps, probably not going to work the triceps nearly as much as you think, although if you had a cable machine and you're putting resistance across the body, would be far more effective. You're probably going to feel more of a burn in your shoulders than anything doing a movement like that with dumbbells. But now, it's time for comment question of the week. Edward Dad asks, how do you overcome the fear associated with squatting heavy? What you can do in that situation is reassure yourself, be that through putting the safety pins there, so if you do go down and can't get back up, you can just let it rest, or getting spotters to help you if you do get stuck. In most cases, that fear is quite important, because if you didn't have the fear, you probably wouldn't try nearly as hard. You essentially need to approach it with the mentality of, if the bar is on my back and I'm going down, it's coming back up. Worst case scenario, you go down, you can't get back up. Take it from someone who knows. It's not as bad as you think. Many moons ago, I was doing a squat. No idea why. I decided to let go of the bar halfway up. Just imagine I'm going up in the squat and then my hands just go, no thank you. I ended up shooting forward, flipping myself forward. Bar hit me in the back of the head. Landed on the safety pins, but it wasn't that bad. And that's probably not going to happen to you because you're probably sensible enough not to let go of the bar when you're squatting. If you like the video, 150 likes on the video and I'll make more, because it's a great means of showing me that you do like this kind of content and want to see more of it. And again, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, which a lot of you watching the channel haven't actually subscribed, I would really appreciate if you did so and maybe click the little bell button and get notified when I upload every week. It means a lot to me, and again, I'm so thankful for all the support I've received recently. If you have a question you want me to answer at the end of the next video, drop it down below for comment question of the week and I shall do so. Thank you for tolerating my content, thank you for tolerating me, and thank you for tolerating the video.